Now, if you want to become awesome at handstands, arm balances, handstand push-ups, press handstands, and that type of thing, I recommend that you include some sort of arm balance in your practice. I personally use crow variations all the time with my own training and with my clients. So today I'm going to run through those variations from the beginner ones right through to the hardest variations that I can do. Ideally, warm the wrists up and join in. So let's just start with the foundations. I'm going to have external little rotations. So I'm going to turn my hands out slightly, roughly shoulder width or slightly wider. And then I'm going to take the knees on the outside of the elbows. Now I have weight in my hands and my toes. I'm just going to slowly take the head and shoulders towards the floor until I feel the weight transfer like a seesaw into the hands fully. Lift the toes up, come back down again. Now if you're totally new to that and you struggle with actually lifting the toes off, just spend time with tippy toes just kissing the floor. So in this position. And slowly decrease the weight in the toes and just hold for time, like 10, 15 seconds in that position. And then as you become stronger, you can just slowly lean forwards a little bit more and take the toes off the floor. Once I've done that, I'm going to play with that seesaw effect a little bit more. So I'm going to take the shoulders a little bit further down towards the floor and raise the hips up so the feet become higher off the floor. Now I'm going to do the opposite, take the head up and the toes back towards the floor. So as my head comes down towards the floor, my toes come up, my hips come up, keep going as far as you can, come back again. Try and go back down so the toes just kiss the floor and then come back. And eventually you're about to do that so you can go all the way down and your head touches the floor. Then all the way back, toes touch the floor. If you have it, then you could transfer more weight into the head and actually go up into a headstand. So same deal, I float the toes very slowly, stay in control, come down, place the head on the floor, transfer more weight to the head. If I have it, can go up to headstand, come back, find that landing position again with the knees, nice and slow. Now as I come up from this position, I want to take the shoulders head forwards to compensate for the hips coming down. Then I can catch the crow, and I can slowly go back to that squat position again. Next thing we can look at is how high the torso is off the floor. So we can straighten the arms more and more, which is going to elevate the position higher and higher. Now when I do this, I do need to lean up and forwards and push up into my upper back a bit more as I straighten the arms, because it gets a little bit planchy. So my normal position, and then I'm just going to push up, more towards straighter arms in that position. Now you might struggle to do that. You might struggle to go from the lower position up to the higher position. So probably an easier way of doing that is actually start with straighter arms. They don't have to be totally straight, but that would be the goal. Knees higher up towards the armpits. This is more of like a crane position in yoga. So then we have two heights. We have that top position as high as we can go and our standard crow position. So we could go between those 2 points. It would be easier to go from the crane position, the high position, down to the crow. And we could go in the other direction. So instead of taking the torso up, we could take the torso down. So if we practice that bottom position first, I'm just going to take the elbows in towards the hips now. So this is more like a squashed crow position. Now most people's femurs will be too long to do this. They'll have to take their knees out to the side. It's a little bit easier to get the elbows into the midline by turning the fingers out to the side. So externally rotate more, take the knees out. There's that same position, that same crow position, but very low. Then we can do the same as before. We can start in our highest position, pass through our middle position, our crow, down to our lowest. So crane position, crow position, at lowest position, and hold. And with those ones, think that you're showing control all the way down. You should be able to pause at any point and you're not just holding the positions. If you're not quite there with those ones, you could use toe assist all the way down. So light toe assist, pass through the crow, into that squash crow position. Okay, next progression, we could look at how much weight we have in the elbows from the knees, from the legs. And I could slowly decrease that weight. The easiest way to think about it to start with is just try and lift one leg off the knee. So I think there's a certain amount of control and weight in the arms and a certain amount of control and weight in the legs. Ideally, I want to put all the control into the upper body so I can decrease the weight in the lower body. So let's first start with that single leg version. So I'm going to set up in my normal crow. Okay, now I'm going to shift weight a little bit to one side. So it's just a little bit more of a conscious effort to put a bit more weight in that right side, which should mean that my left knee now feels a little bit lighter and I could lift that off. The biggest mistake most people make now is they throw the leg backwards, which pulls them back down. Because we don't want to throw weight that way. If weight goes that way, we've got to need to take something in the opposite direction that way. So ideally, take the weight up. Just lift the knee up a little bit to start with. Or if you're comfortable with it, you could take it higher. So I could go up that direction. It doesn't mean I shouldn't go backwards, but notice when I go backwards, my head and shoulders have to come forwards to compensate there. Now obviously if you can do one side, I'm going to make sure we can do the other side. A different variation to enter that single leg one is to go into more of a down dog position first. So here, and then I'm just going to come forwards and load the shoulders, bend the elbows and reach forwards with one foot. And I'm going to slowly decrease the weight in that back toe. Now if you want to head towards handstand push-ups and make it a bit more of a strength movement, you can start looking at decreasing the weight in both knees. A good way to do that to start with is just to alternate knees side to side. And then eventually try and lift up with both, even if it's just for a split second. Eventually you could then work up to that concentric handstand movement or eccentric. And I've covered that in more details in another video. So another crow position that demands a little bit more flexibility, and one that I'm not actually great at because my rotation isn't that good, is to come into the sideways crow position. So you actually put opposite elbow to leg. So like that. So see how I struggle with that range? I can muscle it and get into that position. But ideally you'll be able to get a bit more purchase, so you get the elbow down on that quad a little bit further down. Now commonly the hardest crow position is seen as the air baby. So the air baby is very similar to the single leg position, but it's twisted and you lift the arm. So it's probably easier if I show this from the side. So this would be my normal single leg crow position. Now to lift this opposite arm as well, you actually have to approach this quite differently. So I'm going to go in more from the side. So I'm going to walk around this way and put the knee onto here, and I'm trying to twist and open the body in that direction. So see how much different that is than this position. So the way I'd work this is I would have standard crow position here. So know where you would normally go into it. Now I'm going to walk around the side. You need to move the dog for this one. Come on. So now I'm in that position. So I'm sideways to my standard position. So standard position, sideways. Now I'm going to place the knee more on top of the elbow. I need to create quite a shelf for this one. And then I'm just going to try and twist the body and bring this left leg on top. Now you might even find it easier to put like a sweatband or something on your elbow so you could get a good purchase onto your knee, or use a little bit of chalk. So we're in that position. I'm going to come around to the side, stack that knee on, twist the body around, try and go up onto fingertips, hold. So I'm actually going to take the skin off skin, and because I'm really hot, I'm sweating a little bit in my hair as I'm slipping. So I'm going to put something between it that should help. Yeah, so that definitely helped, but it's not ideal. Also what I do is I compensate a little bit. Because my rotation isn't great, I take the top leg over. I bend the knee and take it over the top a little bit further. And you'll see that from the side. So if I come this way, so crow would normally be that direction, air baby comes this way, and you'll see that top leg goes up and over. So the bit that most people get wrong with that one is they try and go from here and then they try and lift that left arm now, instead of being more this way and turning sideways and trying to bring the leg over. So it's never more like a cartwheel or side entrance, that type of thing. So you can now see how lots of those different crow variations will carry over to the other skills, whether that's working towards like a one-arm handstand, a two-arm handstand, a handstand push-up, even like a press to handstand. So if I'm doing something like press work where I'm in this position, and I go right onto tiptoes, you see the point where my toes need to come off. If I make my arms bent slightly, I can lift off. Look how close that is to the crow position. And I'm sure there's loads of other variations of the crows that I haven't covered today. So if you do know any that I haven't covered, stick them down in the comments below. That'd be really interesting. Let me know if you have any specific questions around the crow or any of the other arm balances. Thumbs up and subscribe will be appreciated, and I'll speak to you next time. Thanks, guys.